North America.
And so therefore the first for many, myself included.
Is stream on or?
Say hi to Roy. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Seven.
It should be just
I'm
Fire
sorry?
Emblem.
I'd say 150.
Or if it's anything with Fire Emblem Blazing Sword, but they may not have it as that.
Yeah, I'll probably be Fire
It
Emblem.
might just be Fire Emblem.
Hi, Roy. How's it
What's up, Roy?
Yay Marsha. YAYMARSHA. Right. Down there. I know.
Oh, I know, but there's still a couple of roads that I stole. Like this Frankenstein hybrid, this like Japanese RTA.
They are great.
The RTA from these libraries is not still like something like
Yeah, I mean, they use one.
I mean that like really, really tight stuff.
3, 2, 1, go. Now, unlike before, this run is entirely memorized, so there shouldn't be any RNG things screwing me over.
Yeah, so the big thing, the game that was played before, Sacred Stones, that was a normal playthrough, whereas this is what you would call an RNG manipulation playthrough. That means that things like hit rates and critical rates and whatnot, those can be manipulated. If you move your cursor in such a fashion and push buttons at the right, or push the right buttons, whatever, if you reset before this chapter starts, everything is put in a fixed manner. So basically, if you do things the exact same way, you'll get the exact same results.
Yeah, basically the Fire Emblem series in particular is one of the rare examples where of a game that can be so heavily manipulated that you can actually control absolute everything about the randomness of the game. Just because basically the only thing that advances the random number generator in the game is combat, the first moment of the enemy's phase, and a very neat little thing involving the cursor movement, which is when you'll notice when he moves the cursor around, it shows a little arrow showing which path the character will take. Now, if you move the cursor in such a way that it needs to recompute the path that the arrow will follow, like for example, if he's passing through terrain that takes more movement or something, the game needs to decide how to reconstruct that arrow, and so in particular it needs to decide whether to do a loop like this or a loop like this. And that decision is done using the random number generator. Basically it draws a single number between 0 and 99, and if it's 49 or below it goes down, and if it's 50 or above it goes up. And so as a result what you can do is you can actually advance the random number generator by using that technique. And so you do this in this run, right?
Yeah, I do it. It's the first time I do it is in chapter 6.
Okay. And so as a result, there are certain points in the run where he may get bad luck or may need better luck. So you can do this to advance the random number generator just enough so that he'll get the better circumstance that he needs. So for example, you just saw you got a really good level up. Level ups in this game are random, but if you know that the next set of random numbers will give you a really good level up, you can manipulate it so that you'll get that level up. It's really neat, and this is an example of a real-time runner doing it. The task, because it can move the cursor so quickly, can do really heavy manipulation, even beyond this. So it's even worth checking out that if you're interested in this kind of game.
Yes, obviously this is a single segment, but segmented runs, allow you to do very, very silly things.
Yeah, I actually, when I was playing in this early on, I had a route that manipulated the RNG a lot more, but not only would that be difficult to remember it all, I didn't think it would be very entertaining to watch because it would just be like a task done in real time.
Yeah. I mean, the main thing to keep in mind here is that, this is mostly memorization, but there's a big input component to this as well, because like one errant cursor movement completely changes the RNG, so...
Yeah, and execution's a big thing. I mean, I'm not... Viking 12 does a lot of runs. The Fire Emblem community knows him. He's the best out there. And the thing about this game is, because it's a Game Boy Advance game, to speed up the cursor, you have to hold B, but B is also the cancel button. So if you're not careful with it, you'll just cancel a move that you wanted to speed up. It's kind of tricky to get the hang of because you have to hold the button before moving.
Yeah, shout out to Viking 12, VYKAN 12. He is an insane Fire Emblem runner. I believe he's been working on Path of Radiance right now.
Radiant, no.
Oh, Radiant Dawn, sorry.
Yeah, he recently got something like 253 on easy mode, single segment. Which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, and I believe that game isn't like the Game Boy ones. I don't think you can actually, like the RNG works differently.
Yeah, the Game Boy games have a much more manipulatable RNG. The GameCube games, conversely, you can't do nearly...
Yeah, you can't do it in real time.
Manipulation.
So he just got a character named Florina. That's Pegasus Knight you'll be seeing a lot of. Obviously, as a flyer, she's very, very useful because she has more movement and she can go over things. A big thing in this game is seizing like thrones or castles, which you need your lord character. In this case, Lyn. Later on, it'll be Eli Wood. And so a big thing will be, the Pegasus Knight rescuing the lord and then, going straight to the throne. Normally, this would be incredibly dangerous because, for instance, you might notice an archer up there. Florina has incredibly low defense and really bad strength as well, normally. And,
yeah, it's definitely not the case here.
Yeah. Which
But,
also takes triple damage from arrows specifically.
Yeah, it's double in this. In the Japanese version, in the Japanese version it was times 3.
Is it times 3 in the Game Boy Advance?
I can't remember offhand, but I think it is.
yeah. But in short, arrows eat her for dinner. Anything eats her for dinner because she has like no defense.
That's why Lyn mode is, I don't like playing Lyn's mode, but it gives you a chance to level Florina up before the main game actually becomes halfway difficult.
Yeah.
Ella with normal still a joke.
Oh yeah. I mean, this game has a pretty good difficulty curve in my opinion, just because Eli Wood Normal is sort of designed for people. This was the first Fire Emblem game to come out in America, so they actually included Lyn's mode as sort of a prologue, this is how you play Fire Emblem, and then Eli Wood's is kind of the main story. But they also made it a little easier than say Fire Emblem 6, which is quite difficult.
Really hard.
Yeah. But they do actually have options to make the game harder. So you can go Eli Wood Hard mode, which is, a good step up. And then there's an additional mode called Hector mode. And Hector Normal is, of course, harder than Eli Wood Normal. And then Hector Hard mode is the real challenge of the game.
Yeah.
Right. It's also the only way you can get the best ending.
Yep.
Oh, it's a Hurricane.
This right here, if you want to play Game Boy Advance games, is pretty much your only option aside from actually getting a Game Boy Advance link cable. I don't know, people have their own preference, but I mean, it's a solid controller, quite comfortable.
Yeah, I don't own an SP, so therefore I've never really learned to play on one.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, and here's the thing. The weird part, when I was planning this out on an emulator, because it makes it much easier, for some odd reason, leaving Dorcas alive causes him to join you automatically, whereas on the cartridge, in Lyn's mode, he just vanishes entirely. And he'll show up again on Ellawood's mode. I don't even understand why he's there.
Version difference,
I'm not sure, but whatever it is, it's really weird.
Anyway, so this is an example of a defend chapter where you need to survive a number of turns. However, he's taking advantage of the fact that one of the characters will not actually fight you because you're actually meant to recruit him. So if you just stick him out front or manipulate him so that he is out front, you can just spend the rest of the chapter just ending turns.
Yeah, this map is kind of input heavy. It's a real pain. I get rid of Will's iron bow because I'm just going to sell it later and sell Florina's vulnerary and buy a javelin, which is much more useful. More game. One HP critical. I had to actually move the cursor all the way around that guy because if I had just moved it straight to the right twice, it would have consumed a random number, and because it would have had to figure out a path to draw because there were two ways to get around it, and it would have just screwed up that level up entirely. And also, something that was brought up during Sacred Stones, I just wanted to correct, is when you rescue somebody, the build or the constitution of the person you rescue doesn't actually affect your stats any differently. Like, say, a 20 build person could rescue a 19 build person. It won't change the penalty they take. That was only in Fire Emblem 5, they had it where the person that you rescued was half your build or more, you would take a movement penalty in addition to everything else.
Yeah, there's only Fire Emblem 5? Huh. Well, I guess that makes sense. That game does just kind of hate you, but...
The penalty is 5 speed, 5 skill?
It halves your skill and speed.
Oh, really? Okay.
I mean, either way, like, rescuing is very dangerous for battles because speed is such an important stat in this game.
Yeah, some of these maps, well, it shouldn't show up here, but some of these maps I didn't plan out exactly as consistently as I should just because some of the scenes that play out before a map starts, characters will move in them, and the game even uses numbers, random numbers, to determine where they move. So, if you don't skip the scene just as fast as you planned it out, you'll have to reset because everything will be screwed up. You'll see that a few times where I'll have to mash kind of hard.
So since you selected hard mode, are you doing Elowood's hard mode or Vector's hard mode?
Just Elowood normal. They give you a choice.
Yeah, the reason he's doing Lin hard mode, I believe, is because, like, it takes out the tutorial stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, because Lin normal is just a horrible thing. Nobody should ever play it past the first playthrough.
Yeah, like, if you've never played Fire Emblem game before, I'd say it is actually a good starting point because you basics pretty well.
Otherwise, it just holds your hand way too much.
Yeah, oh yeah.
To the extent where certain chapters are, like, it tells you exactly which
Where to
square to
move,
move
yeah.
to and which guy to attack.
Yeah, and you'll notice I'm giving Lin a lot of level ups. That's because my strategy for the final chapter of Lin's mode, which is chapter 10, when she fights Lundgren, she's pretty much the best choice for actually taking him out because he's a general, and her special weapon does bonus damage against armored units. And you can actually, all you have to do in this map is just defeat the boss. So it is possible to use Florina to get a 1% javelin critical on this guy and just drop him immediately. But it's also a 50% hit on top of that. And the amount of manipulation it would have taken to get it is just not worth it. So instead I go for something a little easier.
And something to keep in mind here, like, you could feasibly manipulate the RNG to a point where all the enemies always miss you, you land crits on everybody, whatever, but that does also require you to really move the cursor a lot in a fixed pattern rather quickly if you're doing speedrun. So,
Yeah, a lot of times it actually turns out to be faster to just do something a little bit less efficient in terms of turns.
yeah, because the RNG manipulation does take time, so even if a crit is obviously going to be faster than hitting twice, there's a good chance that it will still be faster to hit twice just because of how long the RNG manipulation is going to take.
This is one of those maps where I have to skip sort of fast. Oh, perfect.
So, yeah. Alright. So yeah, normally putting Florina here would be suicidal, because again, she has very low defense, her strength isn't the greatest, but
There's also a ballista up there.
yeah, there's a ballista up there, there's another bow looking down, yeah.
Well, I think she's out of the range of the ballista at this point, but instead it actually aims, it tries to fire at Nils, which is still bad.
Yeah, it's still pretty bad, because Nils is also pretty fragile.
Yeah, he's just a bard, so he doesn't have much HP. Yeah, later on you'll definitely see part of the RNG stuff, but like why it's nice to plan it out, because just you'll see what Lynn does at the end.
I'm personally a fan of Nil's sister Ninian, who for whatever reason has a decent strength growth. Like, on average, on my playthroughs of this game, I'd say her strength growth was actually better than what Seth had in the marathon this year. So,
Love it when she gains one strength
oh yeah.
that she'll never use.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And Yogi talks a lot. I have to skip 3 scenes of him talking and a single third.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we forgot to mention the mightiest swordsman ever that he took on Glass.
Yeah, the annoying thing about the enemies down there, the ones that are around Lynn, those 3, is that they all have Reaver weapons. And so the axe guy there, that bandit, is kind of a pain because Lynn can't really do much to him. She uses a sword. That happens.
Oh, he missed twice. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, normally you'd be panicking right now because, 5 HP and a whole bunch of enemies. It's cool.
Yeah. One thing that's also very forgiving about Lynn's mode is if a character dies, they actually do come back later. It's usually not what happens in a Fire Emblem game, but that's just for this particular mode.
The caveat is that they come back in level 1 rather than having the extra experience.
Yeah, it's their base level. So I remember. Speaking of which, there are times where you could save time by letting someone die, but I've always been somebody who would reset
I
when
agree.
someone dies.
Right, yeah.
And I feel like it's a wrong way to play, so
Yeah.
I will go out of my way to spare Lucius's life.
Yes. That's the proper way to play Fire Emblem. Everyone lives. That's just what you gotta do.
This will be the first instance of RNG manipulation directly in the next turn. You'll see its effects. It's pretty powerful. Okay, here we go. And that little movement there causes this magical boss fight.
Yes.
He misses, and then he
Whoosh.
dies. And she gains strength on top of that, which is important for London.
Yeah.
Oh, she criticals that guy too.
Yeah. That's very unfortunate.
Yeah, that little manipulation there is worth it, just because doing an extra turn in this map would be it would take way too long.
So that was supposed to be your intro to the Fog of War, but oh well.
Yeah. Who needs that? Oh yeah, by the way, this is the only time you'll ever see Lucius used in a speedrun. Normally you wouldn't use a kind of a weak mage, or weak monk, I should say. But he's useful here because the boss is armored, and so he doesn't have that much resistance.
Yeah.
So all he's got to do is just do a little chip damage so that Link can finish him off. This is also the introduction to the rain mechanic, which thankfully doesn't come up. I don't think it comes up anymore.
Yeah, I totally forgot about rain actually.
Yeah.
Like,
There are only
oh,
a few weather effects in the
that's a
game,
thing.
thankfully.
Was rain also in 6?
Not that I remember.
Yeah. I know that there's snow in this game too, which I think is basically like deserts, right?
Yeah, the snow did exist in 6.
Yeah. No, the effect that snow has.
Yeah,
Quite the same as the
it slows you down.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
Well, I
that's
guess
the
it was the
main
same
thing.
as rain actually, which just kind of slows you down. And Lucius, I believe, is the introduction of the monk class, which is another thing that we haven't really seen as much in more modern Fire Emblems.
Normally, the only way to get light magic is to use your staff user just to a psychotic degree so that they get enough experience to promote to their next level.
Yeah. Unless you use like a specialty staff, like staves do not give you much experience, unfortunately.
Maybe unless you're playing Fire Emblem 4, where they give you like 50 a use,
Yeah.
30 a use. Yeah, that was rain. It rains for one turn. And that was the boss.
Yep.
He tried. He really did. He couldn't even hit Lucius. That's how
Could
bad.
not even hit Lucius. Although, in fairness, Lucius is actually a pretty good unit.
He crits a lot for some reason.
Yeah.
This energy ring is actually important. I've had runs where I've forgotten to use it and just went on with the game. In chapter 16, there's this archer that Florina has to kill, and if she hasn't used this energy ring, she won't do enough damage without a critical. And the way I do the saves, by the time I realized it, I couldn't go back. That kind of sucks.
Energy ring increases your unit's power stat, so either their physical strength or magic, depending on whether they're a magic or physical use type character. So, yeah.
That's Ellenwood's only kill, by the way.
It's too bad we couldn't have actually seen his quick hit animation, because it's actually quite fantastic.
Oh, and Dorcas didn't want to join earlier, but he'll just magically come out of that village.
And Bartray.
Thankfully, we're not doing a all characters run here.
Yeah,
Hector
all
card,
character Hector mode, yeah.
Yeah.
because otherwise you would have to raise him to a 10-5 warrior. Basically, he has to be a level 5 warrior, which is a promoted class. So he has to reach at least level 10, promote, then get 4 more levels on top of it,
Right.
just to get one character.
Yes. A character that you have to do one round of battle against and not kill.
Yeah.
Well, I assume you could just take her weapon, or take his weapon.
Well, yeah, you can equip him with a bow, so it's not a huge deal.
But it'd be real fun for a speedrun to have to
Yeah, figure out a way to
to
get-
train that guy.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have a horse, so trying to get him to keep up with the rest of your army, namely Marcus, who is the one-man army.
So yeah, Marcus is this game's Jagen character, which means it's a pre-promoted unit that starts out with really good stats, but unlike an 8, Marcus does not have terribly good growths.
Right.
So at least for a casual playthrough, it's highly recommended that you do want to use Marcus as much as possible.
Yeah, like most of the people that have played this game for the first time, they probably use Marcus a lot, and then they kind of hit a wall eventually, and they're like, what? That sucks. What happened?
He's actually still better than most of the,
he's certainly better than
guys you
Jagen,
get,
yeah.
Well,
He's better than FE6 Marcus.
He's better than the actual Cavaliers that you do get. It's just, if you rely on him too much, you might run into problems.
Yeah.
On Hector hard, anyway. But yeah, Fire Emblem 6 Marcus is not so hot. Because he's old by then.
Yeah.
Now they saved all the good stats for, I believe, Percival.
Hard mode Percival.
Hard mode, Percival. That's that's the fun thing I think about FE6 hard mode. Like I think the pre-promotes got better stats or something, right?
Something like that. I don't know. I'm not as familiar with FE6. So that right there is Hector. Hector's amazing. Just saying.
Yeah. Yeah, Hector is like easily one of the like most OP lords in Fire Emblem history.
Unfortunately, when it comes to speedrunning, he still doesn't have a horse, therefore
Yeah.
still useless.
Yeah.
It's pretty much like a tier list when it comes to speedrunning.
Yeah.
Do you have a... Can you fly? No, then you're no good. Do you have a horse? No, then you're no good.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the interesting thing about Fire Emblem running is that a lot of chapters typically involve kind of a blitzkrieg strategy where you just send as much as you can out as fast as you can, so you just won't see certain units get any use at all.
Yeah.
Poor archers. They'd love to be useful.
Yeah.
The next chapter, it's gonna look a little ugly because it's really hard to practice for some reason, is what they call a rescue train, where you rescue somebody with, say, a mounted unit and move forward, and then you have the next unit pick him up, and so forth, and you can move a unit much farther than usual, and I just screwed that up.
So yeah, what happened there is he accidentally made
I grabbed the wrong guy.
Oh,
Or
okay.
I grabbed the right guy, but I didn't move the element first.
yeah. So resetting literally resets the RNG. So
Yeah, discard your sword. No. Yeah, but what you see there is that it's going to allow Marcus to get across that river, which normally he can't cross it because of his class. But Hector can, because Lord units can.
It's something that they kind of, I would say, fixed in the GameCube games, where you couldn't rescue mounted units with a non-mounted unit. It's kind of weird, because Hector basically just carried Marcus and his horse across the river.
yeah, that's Hector, man. I would believe it.
That's true. Yeah, you can do anything.
Quit. I can see the future. Also, that village there that Matthew's going to visit has a very important item for this run, which is a mine. Because the mine glitch allows you to control enemies, which you will see very soon. Starting in chapter 15. I don't have Marcus attack there because I want a favorable level up, and he wouldn't kill him in one round anyway, so you would have seen him restore HP at the start of his turn. when I was planning this out, a lot of the decisions that I decided to do, instead of like wiggling the cursor around to manipulate things, I felt it would be more just better to watch if I would just do something instead. Like say, I could have wiggled the cursor around there to get that level up, but it was easier to just have Matthew attack that guy instead, which consumes enough of the numbers that it gives me the favorable level.
Well, basically, the typical 2-round combat would consume 8 or 9 random numbers, so reasonably quick compared to cursor movement anyways, so it's not too much of a trade-off.
Right.
Fun fact, this map also exists in Fire Emblem 6.
Oh yeah, that's right. And I believe you fight the exact same guy too.
Yeah, I'll say in hard mode, this map on Fire Emblem 6 is not very fun at all, because in that game, reinforcements appear on the start of their phase, and they like to appear right next to your guys.
Yeah. Quick thing, actually, Fire Emblem 7. Although this is the first Fire Emblem to come out, it's actually 7 in like Japan, and this is actually the prequel to Fire Emblem 6.
Yes, and Fire Emblem 6, for those who don't know, is the one with Roy.
Yeah.
This has Eliwood, who is Roy's father.
Yeah.
Also has Hector, who promptly kicks the bucket in 6.
Yeah, that's like one of the biggest plot holes in the history of video games is how did Hector not just one-shot Zephiel in Fire Emblem 6?
They had to kill him off somehow.
Yeah.
And you notice that I recruit Earth there because, well, A, to get rid of the other phase, but also there's a map later on that there's a route split, and which map you go to depends on how much experience certain characters have gained. And Earth it's basically the magic users versus the physical attackers. If the magic users have gained more experience, you'll go to the map with Kenneth in it, which is much, much faster. Therefore, Earth gaining that little bit of experience is good.
This is kind of the other half of Fire Emblem speedrunning. The fun part is the route planning and luck manipulation. The other half is waiting for the enemy phase, which mercifully they are starting to remove in more recent Fire Emblem games.
Yeah, in Awakening you can actually just push start and it skips over like
and also in Shadow Dragon, I believe.
Really?
Yeah.
You can have it auto skip for you.
Yeah. I believe it's a run of Shadow Dragon on the site, right?
Right.
I remember verifying it.
Yeah, I did that.
And it's like 15 minutes long, so that's just an indication of how much time you spend just watching enemies fight you.
Oh yeah, it significantly cuts down.
Okay, now we're going to see the first instance of a line glitch, which
It's just fantastic programming.
it's fun.
Yeah.
And just like that, I have control of the enemies. All I do is reset as they step on a tile like that.
Let's get back to the game so quickly.
If you do a soft reset and you hold start, the game will just automatically go back in.
Interesting.
And I moved the enemies, just the enemies that would actually be in range to attack me, and I had that archer give away his weapon so that he couldn't attack.
So yeah, this is a Siege chapter where you need to bring Eliwood to the throne, and normally there's an enemy guarding it, and their AI is just to never move, because once they move you can easily win the chapter without fighting them, but they'll still never move if you move them.
Yeah, that's just fantastic.
And Merlinus, he really wants to come with me, and I always just tell him, no, go away. There are very few times that I'll send him out. Because unlike Sacred Stones, you have to actually deploy Merlinus if you get an item and you can't hold that item, you'll have to choose something to throw away if he's not on the map. It would be faster to send an item to him, but he levels up at the start of each map, and that, I think, offsets it. It would be slower to watch him level up all the time. And I had to be slower skipping that scene because the game still uses random numbers to determine where the soldier moves and all of that. So if you skip it too early, that level up will change and everything else will change. Whereas it's consistent if you wait until the scene starts and then skip it. This is the archer she would kill if she didn't have an energy.
That's strength stat.
Yeah, she's not afraid of archers anymore. It's no big deal.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's...
Watching a good speedruns lately?
Don't worry, when it comes to enemy phases, they get much, much worse.
Yeah.
You get to chapter 25, and that's pretty much you just fall asleep because the strategy I have for that, I developed it to basically be minimal effort, minimal memorization. So I only bring one unit to the map.
Nice.
So it's every turn I'm pretty much moving one unit, waiting. One unit, waiting. Hammer sucks, let's drop it. The enemies are weak enough that Marcus can, like the boss here, the hammer would be effective against him, but it's actually it's just fine to use the steel axe because he'll kill him in 2 minutes regardless, and he'll have a better hit rate. Also, Marcus with his good level ups this chapter.
Yep.
He's trying. And I'm trying to... I could rescue Eliwood earlier on, but I'm going to try to just leave him out on the map because I use him as a placeholder because of the way you hit L to switch between units. And Florina is actually not high on that list at this point because I haven't deployed her very often. So it's easier to have him park next to her so that I can easily switch back and select her quick. That's one of the other more annoying things about planning Fire Emblem runs is planning the L switches to switch between characters rather than actually move the cursor around.
Yeah.
No need to kill them all, so just kill himself. He tries. And I could end the map a turn or just earlier, but those NPCs there, those 3 soldiers, will actually leave, and You know that thing about placeholders? You guys screw But the soldiers will run out and basically kill themselves. And you get a different reward depending on, like, if you end the map with all 3 of them alive, you get a red gem, I'm pretty sure. And that's useless to me. I don't need any money. But if I leave only 1 alive, immediately 1 has a javelin, so he doesn't kill himself, the rewards are mine instead. So therefore, I get the glitch more.
Yes.
Yeah.
One thing to keep in mind, normally you would recruit that mercenary there, that's Raven. Normally you would really want to recruit that guy because he's really...
Hold on, I just need to hear this. Okay, it's good.
You were listening for unit movement?
Yeah, the thing about that is there's a scene that plays out where the units move around, and I need to skip the scene before they move around because it changes the RNG.
Fair enough. Yeah, you were saying about Raven is
Yeah,
awesome.
normally he's really awesome. You want him. But speedrun, whatever.
Yeah. Doesn't have a horse.
Yeah, so not have a
Can't
horse.
use it.
I don't know, I just laugh every time I see those strength growths for Florida because she is not supposed to get that high strength at this point in the game.
What's her initial strength? Is it like 3 or something?
I think it's around 6 or 7.
Okay. Because I remember having a game where like 2020 Florida was something like 11.
11 strength, yeah. Yeah, her strength growth is just atrocious.
Yeah, you only have to defeat the boss on this map, and fun thing, that strength growth she got, exact kill.
Yes.
And this level up, you'll like this level.
Okay.
It's almost perfect.
Sweet.
Slightly unfair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're going to load up Saint's inventory with a bunch of worthless junk.
Yes.
So that when he acquires a new item, he will be able to send it back to Ruinous, which is slightly faster than the alternative. Because we're actually going to send Ruinous out in this map because there is a new glitch. The same one that you saw in Sacred Stones, the torch glitch, also exists in this. And it works the exact same way.
That's good.
Any tile that you torch or use the torch on will pretty much become a secondary effect tile, which means that if an enemy ends a turn on it, if you reset as their turn ends, you gain control.
So, speaking of somebody who's never actually used torches before, what's the secondary effect that happens?
Oh, it gives vision range. It's like a normal torch, only you can actually aim it around.
When you land on a space that's been torched?
No, I'm talking about the secondary effect is the lighting up the fog.
Right, but just the fact that that exists on that space.
Yep. Will cause it to do crazy things. I don't know about the internal reasons, but I won't question it. And so this Cavalier will try to attack Lynn, and she'll fail to kill him, which is good, because then he'll end his turn on there, and then fun happens.
Alrighty.
We grab this guy because, and we drop him down here because the boss normally drops an Orion Bolt, which is completely useless, of course, because it promotes archers and things like that. Instead, his newest item is now a mine, so therefore he will drop a mine instead. So I glitch to obtain another item to glitch. And we just gang up on this dude, because why not? Yeah. That's good.
There we go.
Get a better level up out of it.
Alright.
HP, strength, skill, speed,
Yep.
and a mine. It's all good.
The only stat she has right now that looks like what she should have probably always had is her defense.
And the interesting thing about this map, I don't skip that scene until later because there's another strange, inconsistent thing between an emulator and this. And for some reason, when you play on an emulator, the game thinks you have Knas and thinks he's a druid.
Okay.
And so it uses a whole bunch of numbers, and auto levels in, and I really don't understand how that works. But it doesn't happen in the cartridge.
All right.
Therefore, I had to plan this out to the point where I try not to gain any level ups in this map, so that as long as the combat is the same and I get the same amount of experience, it has no lasting effect on the round. So that's why I won't gain it. That's another reason for the mind glitch here. Otherwise, I would have to rampage through a whole bunch of guys. And it's faster to just get them out of your way anyway.
Yeah. So, the boss that just moved there is supposed to be a character that isn't able to move. Like, he's supposed to just sit on the throne for the entire thing. But, well...
Mind glitch. Hooray.
Yeah, and in general, enemies don't use rescuing at all, so it's actually really weird seeing the rescue animation on enemy units.
Yeah, you might notice the sort of character portraits, because the game has no idea what to do.
Yeah, they're all screwed up. The game doesn't even know what to do when it comes to rescued enemies, because that was brilliant. I do that twice because normally Kent will get a critical on this guy and kill him, which is not what I want because it'll screw up his experience and everything else for later. Because I want Florina to kill him. So I actually used the RNG, I manipulated it so that he would not kill that guy. And it's a very rare thing. But the game still doesn't know what to do with enemies that are rescued by other enemies, because if you try to have, say, you're using the glitch, and you want to trade with a guy who's been rescued, the game doesn't know what to do because it won't let you trade with that rescue here.
Yeah.
Whereas it would if you were playing, trading with your own characters.
Yeah. So yeah, it's very entertaining because the character that story-wise is supposed to be dead now, we didn't actually kill him.
And he comes back later as a sort of a zombie.
Yeah, as a
which makes no sense
thing.
because he's still alive.
Yeah.
The musical note thing about Illywood is a buff that he received from Nina. Ninian. It's from Fullmetal Alchemist. Okay.
Yeah, that buff is one turn defense and resistance boost, which is pointless unless you're using the arena, which is very useful because the effect. I'm pretty sure the effect doesn't leave if the unit has been rescued, so that you can have them fight in the arena, then rescue them, and then drop them later to ants for them, and basically they can keep that effect forever.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're gonna use the arena, that's definitely the way to go, but the true way to go is just not use the arena.
Yeah, pretty much. And I move the boss because all I have to do is kill him, and conveniently he goes first, so he kills himself.
Alrighty.
And of course, I had to have time for Florina to pick up that Elysian Whip because that's her promotion item.
Yeah.
And that's very useful. Had her get rid of her Iron Lance on top of the Luna because she gains a couple items here, and it would take more time to try to drop it than it does to just deposit 2 items. All that so that Florina can be within range. See, I could have promoted her earlier so that she would get an extra point of movement and I wouldn't have had to rescue her or do any of that stuff. But the plan is that I can let her get as many level ups as possible before promoting her.
Yeah, that's a sort of stable Fire Emblem thing. Like, you can promote at level 10, but if you do that, then you miss out on like 10 levels of potential like stats. So normally, if you're playing through, you want to get to
level 20.
20, yeah. I'd say at least 15, but at that point, you want to get to 20 so you get the most stats you can.
Yeah, she gets to 14 before promoting. But this way, she's also within range of the boss right now, and so that way she can easily reach him and kill him. Also, more great level ups.
Nice.
Who needs defense?
Yeah. Just to put this in perspective, having a strength of about 20 is about as high as some characters will get ever, and Florina is a level 13 Pegasus Knight before promotion. Like, I didn't even know what's the strength cap for Vulcan Knights.
23.
23.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All unpromoted classes there. Everything except luck is capped at
20.
Almost everything except luck. Yeah, it's capped at 20, and 23. It's not so good for a strength cap.
Yeah. Well, and that's actually the biggest downside of Pegasus Knights. Yeah, so typically when you're running Fire Emblem games, that tends to be a brick wall that you'll hit is that if you want to abuse a Pegasus Knight, you will not be able to use them as your main damage dealer towards the end of the run just because their strength cap is so low.
But they still fly, so it's all good.
Yeah.
And make no mistake, even for a regular playthrough, Pegasus Knights are quite good in this game.
Yeah. Their main advantage over most other units is that they have extremely high resistance stat, which means that they're actually very strong against magic users. So what he's doing here is he's just loading her up on all of the stat increasing items. Just making
Yeah,
her
she can use axes.
as good as possible.
Yeah. Level 1 promoted is already Captain Strength. How about that?
Wait for it. This is the map with the best enemy phase music in the game. Real fun of it. You only get to hear it for 1 minute. Interesting thing is that I think they're the only bosses that come to mind that they don't have. Normally when you fight a boss, they say something before. These guys don't. They only say something when they die. Just a little too good. And just like the other desert maps, this one has hidden items everywhere. I'll be picking up one of them, that's why I have Matthew moving it around. It's probably not actually faster, but the effect of the item that I pick up is fun at the end. I won't spoil it.
So, a character that's green is considered neutral. So it's a character that can, kill enemies but won't actually gain any experience. And this particular character is Pence, your pre-promoted sage whose stats are laughably, hilariously good.
He is way better than any other magic user you can get.
Yeah, he's easily the best magic user in the game.
Other than Athos, but that doesn't count.
Oh yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Also, Lynn's personal weapon is still too good.
Monikati,
Yeah.
That critical hit rate.
Yeah, well, basically this was
Plus 25, I think it was.
25. Wow, I thought it was the same as a killing edge, but okay. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's really good.
There was one fight I had where Nina gained strength. Oh, okay, it wasn't this one. So disappointing. Should have reset, she didn't gain strength.
Didn't you undo it?
Yeah, exactly.
Another big thing in planning out Fire Emblem runs is dealing with weapon uses, because every weapon has a limited number of usage, and the better weapons tend to have low usage. You usually need to be smart about how much you use good weapons, so you'll see he switched from spear to javelin on Florina just because he needed the spear for the kill, but you don't want to waste that because spears are, like, OP in this game.
Yeah, the interesting thing is that sometimes which weapon you use, like you'll still get the same kill. Like in 27, I'll explain it when I get there, but if I use a javelin on a certain part, I would get what looks like the same effect. I would kill everybody and all that, but then an enemy would kill Marcus, whereas if I use a short spear, he'll survive. It's kind of stupid. I can't remember if it has something to do with his critical hit rate or its damage, but either way it affects the RNG just that slight bit. Aphis drops, totally useful. God.
What do they do?
It increases growth rates by 5% on the person who uses one.
Oh, okay.
Which, in a casual playthrough, would be kind of useful. Here, not so much. It also changes when you check your battle history. Who you use the Aphis drops on would be the person that comments on your rank.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you don't use it on anybody, it'll be Relentless.
Huh.
So there's your incentive to use it on somebody, because Relentless.
Interesting. I must have always used it on the same character then.
Yeah, what'd you use it on?
I think Nino, just because
Yeah,
she
that's
shows up
the
so late.
That's the
popular one.
Also, I just had Lloyd, the boss of the map, rescue his buddy, which slows him down to the point where Florina can double him, and then he dies. And the map ends. That's what he gets for being a nice guy.
Yeah.
And this is another one of those defense maps, but unlike the other ones, it's faster to just kill off a few people, or kill some enemies before waiting it out. Yep. Oh, really? Rip? Seriously. That was way harder than it should have been. Also, people might know that the boss of this map has a spear. The game tries to claim that she is enhanced with dark magic and therefore she is stronger than usual, gives her stat bonuses. Turns out that it's just the spear she's holding has stat bonuses.
Yeah.
So if you take it from her, you will also have those.
Under normal circumstances, that would be very difficult.
Yeah, it would actually be impossible because you can't steal from her and she doesn't drop it. But the mind glitch says no.
It's way too good.
Because with the mind glitch, there's an enemy nearby who has a droppable Luna, and if you have an enemy that has a droppable item, basically swap or get a new item, then the newest item will come to drop. So
yeah, like
you put the spear in his inventory, suddenly he drops the spear when he dies.
Droppability is based on like the actual slot in the enemy and not the item itself. So under normal circumstances, enemies wouldn't swap their items around in their inventory, so just flag saying that the enemy's second item is what they will drop to kill them. So yeah, just switch the item there that you want and then make it work.
And his spear is actually useful in the front. It gets used exactly the 15 times.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those good ways to get around the Falcon Knight's low strength cap of 23. It gives her strength bonus of 7 or something like that. Allows her to do a lot more damage.
Which is pretty big. Strength of 30 overall is among the highest, I think, of any unit can get.
30 is the highest strength, yeah.
Yeah.
As far as
There you go.
yeah, we'll place a mine there for later. The guy won't step on it for a few turns, but that's okay. So I got more stuff to take care of. So just ending turn and letting Louise kill these idiots who are too stupid to just attack her close up. That's why I moved her down one, because they have no choice but to attack her in range.
In general, the enemy AI in the Game Boy games is such that if there is a player unit in range of attacking of an enemy and that enemy is not set to not move or have a specific movement pattern, it will always attack. And so as a result, you can manipulate enemies that way by just putting a unit that they would otherwise not really stand a chance against, but they'll still go up and fight it. It's something that they kind of, I guess you could say, fixed in the GameCube games, because they'll actually be smart and run away in some circumstances.
So yeah, now he has a spear. And he will shortly lose it. This is thankfully Kent's last use. Unfortunately, it ends in a little up, because he likes to waste time. Stats are too good.
That's the spear, right?
Yeah,
That is the spear.
And now we get to the point where you just end turn one. There will be a few reinforcements, but I put those units there because there would normally be 4 Dragon Knights that would pop out. The holes are plugged, so only one pops out.
Yeah, a very common thing as far as reinforcements in this game. They're usually based on like a space, whether it's a forge or coming from the mountains or whatever. So if you plan your unit on top of that space it's supposed to appear, they just don't come. Well, we mentioned the Atlas drops is something that you give to a unit to increase their growth rates. Did you make sure to choose the right affinity so that you can get level up growth on those characters?
It doesn't actually affect growth. Based on your rank, like your tactician stars. Damn it. Your tactician stars. Like say you complete a map with S rank conditions, the game tracks, and according to those, it'll give you like a void bonuses and so forth based on the affinity. Like if you had if the character has a matching affinity with the tactician, you don't get bonuses. They used to think that growth rates were affected, but that turned out to be true.
What bonuses are we talking here?
Like a void and hit bonuses.
Oh.
Yeah, like each.
Yeah, it's like each tactician star is +1, I think, or something like that.
Oh, okay, so.
And this is the map where it's mostly enemy phase the whole way because I only move 1 unit. And the snow sucks because it limits your movement. Until you get indoors where you're fine, but by the time I get indoors, it stops snowing. Even as slow as this is, this chapter is a lot faster than the other route version of it, which has Jeremy, whatever his name is. The goal for that map, it's also like a much wider map, and the goal for it is to defeat everybody, as far as I remember. And compared to this, which is just seize the throne, and there are a lot of guys in there, and you have to unlock a whole bunch of doors.
Yeah. I believe this is the one where you get either Carol or Harkin, right?
Right. That was a real pain when I was trying to plan a 100% route for this, for all characters. Harkin is the way to go, because he shows up where those Dragon Knights guy just showed up, but he doesn't show up till turn 10. So you get here and then just have to sit around waiting for the enemies to just do stupid stuff for a very long time.
Right.
Pearl would be the same way. He just appears in a different area that's even more inconvenient, and you would have to kill that druid up there and that bishop or that sage. You have to kill 2 promoted enemies.
Yeah, that's how it works with Carol and Harkin. Like, if you kill those 2 promoted enemies before the turn that one of them shows up, then Carol shows up. If you don't, then Harkin shows up. Alright. I'm Butters BB.
Molotov.
SMK.
And this is Fire Emblem.
Yes. That's Florina.
Yeah, that's Florida.
We're down to the stats.
Levelwood with bare minimum stats so that he can survive one hit.
One hit.
That's all he needs. Very important that I drop him there, because if I had dropped him near the walls, the mage would go for him instead and he would have died.
Yeah.
Good job taking that hit.
Get it down.
It's quite an accomplishment, man, actually, that he actually manages to hit.
Yeah. I never actually played this map with Jeremy. I never even realized that you could do that. I just kind of got to the last level where you have to do all the boss group fights. I'm like, who's that guy? I never saw that guy.
The plan for this is a little bit strange. You'll notice I took all of Florier's weapons because in this game you couldn't, just before they implemented the unequip option, so the only way to keep one of your characters from slaughtering everybody is to just take all their weapons.
Yes. And the goal in this stage is to rescue Prince Zephiel, because he seems like such a nice guy.
Yeah.
Totally, yeah.
He would never do anything to harm you.
Oh.
No, but the torch glitch, it's used a lot in this realm. And the key is, there's a guy that moves before everybody else past a certain turn. And what I want to do is I want to have Florina get to him and basically bait him into attacking. So every enemy phase that starts, he'll attack, and then I'll torch glitch, and it'll just repeat so that I can control the enemies at will.
Yeah, kind of a secondary objective here is to protect Jafar, because he's the green assassin on the lower left there. Because normally, there's he is a really good unit, but he's surrounded by just so many units that's unfeasible for him to be able to just solo this. But
yeah, I moved that archer down there. After that kill, Jafar will not move because nobody's in his range, and it saves a lot of time because I don't have to watch him do stupid things. And I had the enemy trade a whole bunch of things to that thief, which is that guy I'm moving in the dark there, because when the enemy's inventory is full and they pick up an item and there's Merlinus on the map, which, by the way, I did just witness, and Merlinus is on the map, enemies can actually send items to Merlinus because logic. And there are two items that I want in this map, the boots and the rescue staff. And the enemies will pick up both of them.
also, normally Jafar would never actually fight the boss. Just the game would not let that happen.
So now that I have a rescue staff thanks to the enemy, I will pick up the boots.
So awesome. And so that effect lasts as long as Torch does?
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah, I'll have to recast it on turn 10 because otherwise it won't work anymore.
Yeah.
But after that, it lasts the rest of the map.
So did that enemy just send boots to Merlinus?
Yep.
That's fantastic.
He's a generous guy.
Very generous guy, yes.
The only problem with this strategy is, as nice as it is that if you miss, for some reason, you mistime the reset, it'll screw everything up because then the enemy will actually move and do stuff.
Yeah, normally this chapter is actually quite difficult.
Now we need to reuse the torch because otherwise it won't work anymore. And from here on out, I just end enemy turns. Another benefit of doing it this way is that Nino, normally enemies attack Nino, and she'll do stupid stuff like run away and use an elixir, and then get hit more and use another elixir.
It's really nice that they have that instant restart feature.
Yeah.
All right, last turn. Total passing.
That's good. I do like the old strategy where you actually had Jafar kill Ursula.
Now we get the boots for Ines because she's not good enough.
Yeah, she doesn't have enough movement.
Also, just a fun little thing. Fans of this game, Nino is a character you can get from that map. She's a very, very underleveled mage. And like a very popular thing to do is to give her the Athos drops and try to level her up through the rest of the game.
Takes a while.
Yeah, it takes a while.
It takes a while, and honestly, Pent is probably
Just
Yeah, Fence is just as good as Nino would get anyway.
not as cute though. So I mean,
Yeah.
I need this map.
yeah.
An interesting thing about this map is that there are reinforcement triggers, but they're set in certain zones, and if you end an action in one of those zones, reinforcements will be triggered, and then like turns later those keep coming. Well, you can actually maneuver around them and never end your action in one of those, which is what I did there with everybody else. You'll notice that, see, Nignan never moves past those bridges because those two bridges are the start of a trigger. And Florina's in the river there. If she goes one up and ends her action, it will also trigger. So I have to move precisely not to do that because this is a defeat enemy map. So I would just prolong it by adding more enemies to the map. Which is also why the mind glitch is useful here, because there are some enemies that are kind of in an annoying spot to reach, where you would have to go through a reinforcement trigger to reach them. So it's better to have them come to you and kill themselves. She's also not afraid of Ballista.
Nope.
This time.
Keep in mind, her defense is still like 6.
Totally fine.
Yeah.
No problem. And the fun part about using the mind glitch here, there is an enemy with a mine. So I can use it and then just get another one.
Nice.
Because normally the boss would drop an iron room, which would give critical immunity, but who cares about that? When you can have him trade with a guy who has a mine, so he drops a mine instead.
Indeed.
And this guy, I have him get rid of his long bow so that, and then grab a short bow so that both enemies will be don't kill themselves against my units later. This guy. It's not my turn. Because otherwise he would just attack at free range and be a jerk. Thankfully, Hector, as bad as he is because he hasn't been leveled up at all, is still good enough to kill one of these guys because they've rescued somebody, so they're slow.
I love the little sound that happens when a rescued unit dies.
It's a great sound effect.
Yeah. The reason why that's so funny is that usually, if enemies can't actually be rescuing people. I want to see this level up.
It sucks. There we go.
Yeah, even crappy levels are still good. And normally, an enemy can't actually rescue anyone, so it's only, the player that's actually going to be rescuing. So the only time you'd be able to hear the sound effect is if one of your units dies and then the person they were holding drops. So whenever a character dies, they give some sad speech and all the sad music plays and everything, and then whoop!
We haven't changed who we are.
We switched our names.
Yeah.
I'm SMK now.
Yeah,
Yeah, unfortunately the enemy phases just stay long for the rest of the run. I think this is actually the longest one.
Oh, really?
This chapter, yeah.
It's too bad this game wasn't more like 6 where every chapter ended with C's.
They just wanted to make Roy useful for something other than killing humans.
Yeah. So one thing, people know Roy mostly because he was in Smash Brothers Melee. I believe that Fire Emblem 6 was originally supposed to be like the first Fire Emblem to come to the States. Like they even advertised it in Nintendo Power and everything, and it just didn't.
Possibly because it was almost impossible.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's the main reason. It's just like it came out way too hard, and they realized we should probably give. This probably isn't the best iteration to use as like the introduction to the series. So.
Oh, and now Marcus can use stabs. Why not? I actually just throw that in his inventory because I want him to have a full inventory so he can, when he kills Linus, I want him to send his super spear to. I want him to send his super spear to Linus so it doesn't break, and because it's useful later. And so that's why I threw the stab. But it wouldn't surprise me if Marcus could get to the point where he could use stabs. But this is absurd. I don't think anybody really competes for this category, so it's whatever my personal best is at this point. Game time is 1:27:13. I haven't done a real-time run in a while because I've been here rather than at home. And real-time around 1 hour, 33 minutes.
So how recent is Torch Glitch?
So I think it was like a year or so ago now.
Keep up more.
So he sends the sphere back with 7 uses because they are all useful, and I don't want to waste them on these weak ones. If I had the short spear at this point, Marcus would not survive this. At this point, Marcus is so good, he doesn't even care about weapon triangle disadvantage. Just don't kill this guy.
Yeah, that's a great place to be. 2 hit points, spear user against a berserker.
It's an unskippable scene, but thankfully it doesn't last very long. Because you got to see Elwood promote because he's so useful.
Oh man.
He gets those promotion gains, and suddenly he's the best guy.
Yeah. Let's look at these monster stats.
Still level 1, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Alright, monster stats incoming. Let's go.
If it's any testament to how bad Eliwood is, he has a horse
Bam.
that he can use him.
Single-digit stats promoted.
Yep.
Oh, and he can use spears. I'm pretty
man.
sure his
Yo,
spear
now you
rank
can
starts off.
javelin things. Oh, great.
Best character ever, best character.
So this next chapter is specifically designed to force you to level up Eliwood.
Yep. But thankfully there exists a thing called the rescue staff.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a set path that he's supposed to go on, but, you know, forget that. He's going this way.
Yeah.
Oh, and also forget that, because he's not going this way either. He's going back on the path that he was on. Because rescue and warp together are a powerful thing. So I think just bypassed a whole bunch of enemies. And those little fire tiles there act as basically like a mind glitch. So I get to control the enemies here too. Just like that. There's a guy in the way, but he will not be in the way any longer. So why not?
So yeah, if you're paying attention, the layout of the map is such that you typically should only be able to...
That was dumb. That's what I get for making fun of the map.
Yeah.
Whatever, it's all good. Yeah, because the fun part about this map is both enemy phases. The second guy that moves is dumb enough to stop on a fire tower. Do this right this time. Elwood makes the move.
Yep.
He tries.
Right. And there you go. So yeah, specifically designed so that Eliwood could get levels. Did not fight once.
Yeah.
You got so many levels for that.
Mercifully, I think the chapter is set up so that you aren't required to use Eliwood if you happen to have not been leveling up at all. It's just a little bit more out of your way. But, yeah, rescue and warp.
And you could play this map normally, but why do that when you have a line?
I'm assuming rescuing those guys just keeps them from moving and killing themselves and wasting time.
Yeah, it eliminates the other phase. Solid execution going on here. And the first guy that moves conveniently steps on line.
Nice.
Because he's smart like that. Now we just disarm all these guys because it's a defense map, so I have to wait it out anyway. And rather than kill them, I will just have them be very confused and do nothing. They'll try to crowd around and then not realize that they're not getting anywhere.
Oh, that is so nice that you can trade and rescue on the same turn.
I like the idea of the archers getting possessed and just deciding that it's a great idea to trade their item with the dark magic user.
Yeah.
And you'll notice that I didn't disarm those two dark mages over there. The shamans, they don't move. So
Okay.
they can just sit there.
Later.
Yeah, that was a boss.
You just kill that for EXP, or?
No, I kill him because if the boss is alive, reinforcements will spawn. Who actually do have weapons. And so at this point, nobody can hurt me. All I gotta do is just wait it out. Which it gets faster once they all crowd up because they reach the point where nobody moves at all.
Do you actually get some sort of reward since all your guards survived?
But those guys are completely useless, other than to waste time. Particularly if they like to get hit by poison balls. Because they can't dodge them, and the poison effect takes forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, poison is like the most ill-conceived status ailment in this game. It does like no damage, but it just wastes a ton of time.
On the bright side, it isn't like it was in the 5th Fire Emblem game where it was permanent.
Oh,
You
yeah.
got poison in the chapter, you need to end the chapter quick because
Because
it will not go away.
776 is just that hard.
Well, 776 also has this terrific feature called fatigue. So, like, if you use your character too much, they're like, I'm too tired, I can't fight this map. So,
Which is a problem because Fire Emblem, your typical strategy is to get a really good character and use them for everything.
yeah.
That was a map. Unfortunately, using the mine there means I can't use the mine here, which does slow down this map, but it still ends up being faster overall. So normally, in the old route, I would spare Limstella because I would just move her off the board, but unfortunately she has to die this time. Yeah, there are also reinforcement triggers here, but most of them don't matter. There's one around the boss area that you can't really avoid because you kind of need to get Illiwood there, and even if you drop him there, he needs another turn just to be able to get in there to seize. Otherwise, Hawkeye, he just hides on the mountain in such a way that nobody can reach him because he just wastes a lot of time or take hits and things like that. And Pet just runs the heck away so that he doesn't fight too much. Convenient thing about Viking covered this, he has a tutorial about moving the cursor quickly in these games because it can be tricky to learn. That if you hold the B button and you move the cursor really fast, it will stop at the end of your movement range. So you can sort of like bump into one side and then move up and bump somewhere else to actually be able to control it. Well, conveniently, those enemies near the boss moved in such a way that they present an obstacle that it allows me to just go that way and then up. So even the enemies are cooperating with me at this point. Does his job at taking more hits, or taking a hit and then dodging like a ninja the rest of them.
Nice.
Which is also a good reason to not have him equipped right now, because he would have had a weapon disadvantage there. promotion gains, man.
Attaboy.
That was all worth it.
Yes, totally. Was that the Spear of the Gods?
Yep.
Alright.
Get a tome that I don't need, throw it away.
You might want to show off like the spear and the stats just so people have a visual reference. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Those are some stats.
Plus 9 speed.
I like that resistance.
And I mean, the stats that they give that spear are meant to make the person holding it unkillable. So,
Yeah. And just for this chapter, we get access to Athos. He's sort of the, okay, you really screwed up your level, so we're gonna throw you a bone and just give you this character.
Who is way too good.
Yeah.
And combine that with the Luna Tome, which negates enemy resistance and has 30 critical.
Yeah.
So everything just dies. Oh, and he has capped magic too, so therefore he has like 30 magic too. So yeah, he's unfair. And also, you'll notice that I got rid of... Athos comes with a whole bunch of items, but none of them are useful. So therefore I got rid of them, because Athos will do a lot of boss killing and don't drop items. So I want to delay how long it takes for him to have to actually throw stuff away.
Yeah, each of the... Or almost all? Do all the bosses drop something interesting? Yeah.
All the named bosses. I know their exact kill, by the way.
They all drop sort of a power item. of some
Other
sort.
than Jeremy. He doesn't, because he sucks. They don't care about him. Oh no, wait, Linus doesn't drop anything either, because nobody cares about him. Nobody cares about him to the point where he just dies in one hit. He's like, hey, I'm here. No, no.
I appeared.
Even this guy drops something. Which is pretty sad. They gave a generic a droppable, but not Jeremy or Linus, yeah.
Yeah.
As you can see, Athos doesn't care. What's that? I can be completely destroyed by this guy if he hits me? Nah, no problem.
I believe there's going to be the boss that we didn't actually kill, but is apparently still dead anyway.
Yep, here he comes.
Yep.
He's totally a zombie now, for no reason. And he's actually the only boss that Athos, or one of the only bosses that Athos does not kill. Because he drops this,
Next boss.
which I switched to it because that'll allow Marcus to kill this guy in 2 hits, which sets up the RNG nicely for Athos fighting Lloyd. Then this happens.
Right.
Which Lloyd and Linus have a support together, which gives Linus extra defense. If you attack Linus with Lloyd still alive, that would not have been an exact kill because he would have had just like a little bit of defense.
So that's the end of the super spear.
Yep.
It did its job.
Now we fight the last 2 bosses of the game.
And one thing, this game has really nice animations. Like, it's really cool, but we never actually get to see any of them just because, you know, it wastes a lot of time. But we will get to see one.
Yep. You did.
Yep.
Now we fight a very lame final boss.
Yeah.
And we use that item that I picked up in the desert that I said would come in at the end. It gives plus 10 attack. And criticals do triple whatever your display damage is. The boss has 120 HP.
Do the math.
Do the math.
Gotta love how they throw all these legendary weapons at you, and Luna is still the best.
So the Final Boss just dies in one hit. Kind of just goes away.
Bye, dragon.
Yeah, those others do that on their own.
No wonder he collapses and dies at the end. See all that work he just did?
Yeah.
Dude's like 900 years old.
Just killing everything. I don't know. What do you usually measure as time?
I usually at the final save, which will be very soon.
Okay.
Yeah. You gotta skip through some more.
Yeah, if you get a support with Elo and Ninian, she actually stays around, but whatever.
Yeah. Like, thanks for the help. Go back to Dragon World. It'll come up soon. There you go. Time. Yeah, time, yeah. I'll take it. It's usually customary in these kind of... Yeah, it's usually customary in this to just show turn counts of what they show at the end. It's 165 turns. I like how they didn't have the S on A. This is just turn. 2 turns.
Yep.
And Marcus did stuff.
And final in-game time.
128. What is that?
Decent. So, minute off TV or so.
Minute and 35, yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
All right.
Ah, very good.
Stuff.
Yes. I'm sorry? Yeah.
Good job, dude.
Thank you.
There's a clip. Where should I leave this?
This is gonna be awesome. Has anyone ever done something